Have you ever stopped to think that the car brand you trust today might not even be around tomorrow? That familiar logo you drive past on your morning commute. Imagine it's suddenly gone, leaving owners with tanking resale values, no service network, and absolutely no faith in the brand. Well, today I'm revealing the 5 automakers that industry analysts say are dangerously close to disappearing. And if you're considering buying from any of them, this might be the video that saves your wallet. Stay right here. One of these companies has already started shutting down production as we speak. Let's jump in. Coming in at number 5, we have Infiniti, a brand that once stood proudly as Nissan's luxury masterpiece. Back in the 1990s, Infiniti wasn't just another premium badge. It was Nissan's bold strike against BMW, Lexus, and Mercedes. And for a moment in time, it actually worked. Enthusiasts raved about the Q45, the G35 became a fan favorite, and the brand carried genuine prestige. But fast forward to today, and Infiniti is barely recognizable. For 2026, the entire lineup has collapsed to just 2 nameplates: the QX60 crossover and the full-size QX80. And even those come with problems you simply can't ignore. The QX80? Shockingly overpriced for what it delivers. The QX60? It ditched its rock-solid V6 for a 2.0L VCT turbo, an engine already tied to bearing failures and reliability scares that make long-term owners nervous. And that's not the end of it. Nissan's financial struggles cast an even darker cloud over the brand. With shrinking resources, Nissan simply can't pour money into Infiniti the way a luxury division requires. Meanwhile, buyers have already migrated to Lexus, Genesis, and even Acura. Brands offering stronger value, better engineering, and a brighter future. Unless Nissan pulls off an industry miracle, Infiniti is dangerously close to following Saab, Saturn, and Pontiac into the automotive graveyard. And unfortunately, the warning signs are getting harder and harder to ignore. Sliding into the number 4 spot is Mitsubishi, a brand that, honestly, has been surviving on borrowed time in North America for years. If you roll back the clock to the early 2000s, Mitsubishi still had real excitement in its lineup. The Eclipse, the Lancer, the Evolution, the Montero, nameplates that actually meant something. But today, the lineup is painfully thin, and the energy that once defined the brand is gone. The only model keeping Mitsubishi on life support is the Outlander plug-in hybrid. To be fair, a legitimately strong SUV with one of the better hybrid systems on the market. I've even highlighted it before as one of the 20 cars worth investing in. But here's the blunt truth. One good vehicle can't carry an entire company, and the rest of the lineup feels old, unimaginative, and nowhere near competitive in 2025 and beyond. Then there's the customer service issue, and this is where things get messy. Mitsubishi loves to advertise their famous 10-year warranty, but when you talk to real owners, you hear story after story about denied claims, weak dealer support, and constant parts delays. It's no surprise their US market share has shrunk to just a shadow of what it once was. Unless something radically changes, and fast, Mitsubishi is just one economic downturn away from disappearing from the US market entirely. And for buyers, that's a risk you can't ignore. In the number 3 spot, we have Stellantis, a giant automaker where not every brand is in trouble, but several are dangerously close to the edge. Let's be clear, Jeep, Ram, and to a lesser degree, Dodge still hold real market power. But Stellantis is a massive collection of nameplates, and some of them are bleeding money, market share, and credibility at an alarming rate. Take Chrysler, for example. Their entire lineup has collapsed to essentially one model, the Pacifica minivan. And while minivans still serve a purpose, the Pacifica's ongoing reliability issues make it incapable of carrying a whole brand on its back. Then we have Dodge. The legendary Charger and Challenger are gone, replaced by an electric Charger that buyers are avoiding in huge numbers. And the Italian-built Dodge Hornet? Critics have ripped it apart for being overpriced, unreliable, and flat-out uncompetitive. And it gets worse. Alfa Romeo and Fiat are barely hanging on in the US, offering niche vehicles that only a tiny group of die-hard fans care about. Meanwhile, Maserati, a brand that sounds luxurious, suffers from the weakest resale values in the entire premium segment. We're talking six-figure cars turning into bargain bin used buys just a few years later. The harsh truth is this: Stellantis has stretched itself way too thin. Too many brands, too many mediocre products, not enough focus on quality or long-term strategy. And unless the leadership steps in, cuts the dead weight, and rebuilds from the ground up, don't be shocked if one or more Stellantis brands vanish from the US market within the next decade. For buyers, that's a risk you cannot afford to ignore. Now, stepping into the number 2 spot is Jaguar. And this one honestly stings, because I've personally owned Jaguars and I know exactly how special this brand once was. From the legendary E-Type to the stately XJ sedans, Jaguar used to embody style, performance, and that unmistakable British charm that made enthusiasts fall in love instantly. But today, the reality is brutal. Jaguar has quietly halted production on almost every model in its lineup. For 2026, the only thing technically available is the F-Pace SUV. And even that's mostly leftover inventory sitting on dealership lots, waiting to be cleared out. In other words, the Jaguar we knew is already gone. The company has announced that it's finished building combustion engine cars and plans to reinvent itself as a fully electric luxury brand. But this is where the real problem hits. High-end EV sales are cooling off fast. Tesla still dominates the segment, while traditional automakers are struggling to move pricey electric sedans and SUVs. So ask yourself, what are the realistic chances that Jaguar, with its tiny footprint in the US and a reputation that's been shaky for years, can pull off a dramatic EV comeback? As painful as it is to say, the odds are almost zero. Jaguar might technically relaunch in the future, but in its current form, the brand is already functionally dead. And for anyone considering a luxury EV in the next few years, this is a warning you cannot afford to ignore. And that brings us to the final spot, VinFast. When this Vietnamese EV newcomer stepped into the North American market, it made waves instantly. On paper, the pitch looked strong. Bold expansion plans, aggressive pricing, and a confidence that suggested they were ready to fight Tesla, Hyundai, and even the established luxury EV players. But once the real-world reviews started coming in, everything fell apart. The VF8 and VF9 were criticized heavily for weak performance, inconsistent build quality, and price tags that didn't match the engineering behind them. Then came the safety controversies, including insiders claiming that critical shortcuts were taken during development. And let's be honest, when we're talking about a family vehicle traveling at highway speeds, cut corners is the last phrase anyone wants to hear. Even with extremely cheap lease deals, huge discounts, and 0% financing, buyers are still steering clear of VinFast, and that alone speaks volumes. We've seen this story play out before. Ask anyone who bought a Fisker Karma or a Koda EV. Those brands evaporated almost overnight, leaving owners with no parts, no service network, and a vehicle that turned into a driveway ornament. Unless VinFast pulls off a dramatic turnaround, and fast, the trajectory looks eerily similar. And for potential buyers, the risk is simply too big to ignore. So let's cut through the noise. Every single one of these brands is crashing for the same reasons: weak products, shaky finances, and a complete breakdown in customer trust. And in today's market, that's a death sentence. Meanwhile, Toyota, Honda, Hyundai, and Kia aren't lucky. They're winning because they deliver what actually matters: reliability, value, and support you can depend on when things go wrong. Ask yourself this: with cars costing more than ever and repair bills hitting insane levels, why would anyone gamble on a brand that might not exist long enough to fix the vehicle they sold you? People aren't stupid. They're walking away from risk, and they're doing it fast. That's why rock-solid models like the Corolla, CR-V, and Tucson are in and out of dealerships within days, while Infiniti showrooms echo like abandoned malls, and VinFast units sit untouched like forgotten inventory. This industry is brutal, and the truth is simple. Once a brand loses trust, it's done. No second chances. And unless something drastic changes, Infiniti, Mitsubishi, Stellantis's weakest brands, Jaguar and VinFast, are all inching toward the same cliff, and the drop is coming fast. So now I want to know, if your money was on the line today, would you dare bet it on any of these brands? Drop your thoughts below. And if you want more brutally honest breakdowns like this, hit that like button and subscribe. I don't sugarcoat anything. I just tell you the truth that car companies don't want you to hear.